How do you listen? Fire. Check out.
I was born when the world was young, way back in 1951. Then there was no video. We all went to the picture show. Back then there was no internet, and Bill Gates had not been born yet. Pinball was what we played down at the Penny Arcade. Now there was a king of rock and roll, and music played that was cold soul, not made by any drum machine, with lyrics that were squeaky clean. Of course it wasn't always nice. Now there was trouble and a war and strife, but we managed to survive, and we were free to run our lives. Take me back to the middle of the 20th century. Take me back before AIDS and satellite TV. Take me back when you still had a little bit of privacy. Take me back to the middle of the 20th century. Back when you only had to worry about the bomb. Back when your telephone stayed at home. Back when the water didn't do you any harm. Back when old MacDonald had was a farm. Think that I'm an old fool and hold me up to ridicule. Just an old man whose time has passed and hasn't got too long to last. But I'll tell you what I think. Well, if it's bull, then it has to stink. And all this bull that I see is your perfume, but it stinks to me. So take me back to the middle of the 20th century. Take me back before AIDS and satellite TV. Take me back when you still had a whole lot of privacy. Take me back to the middle of the 20th century. Back when you could still make love without a condom, mask and glove. Back before computer games, when parents still knew their kids' names. Back before holdup.com stole your money with their cons. Back when folks did what was right and didn't try to tell you that black was white. So take me back to the middle of the 20th century. Take me back before AIDS and satellite TV. Take me back when you still had a whole lot of privacy. Take me back to the middle of the 20th century. Take me back to the middle of the 20th century. Take me back to the middle of the 20th century.
The views expressed in the following show are of the host, the guest, and the callers. The content of the following show, its accuracy, authenticity, and the ramifications of the use or application of said content is the responsibility of those speaking and listening, not the broadcast medium.
All right, we are back, and we are live. Beat to the Fire. Beat to the Fire Radio. I'm your host, James Altheanchik, the Black Knight. I should get my sound effects back out again. I did an audio show last week before. I brought up my original theme, which was a little longer because when you're preparing in radio or whatever, you're preparing, you got the theme. And I don't know, I just picture people pulling up with some popcorn or maybe a brew or some coffee or what have you, and getting ready. You're sitting around the radio, around the computer, whatever, radio, listening. But in video, you got to keep snapping. This is already too long. People are like, oh, this guy talks too long. Boom, they turn it off. Actually, I'm kind of bad like that. When I see videos, a lot of the people who are doing the videos are so thrilled that they're doing videos. It's like, all right, time to move on. But anyway, here we go. I got Jim Shultz. James Shultz is going to be here at the bottom of the hour, approximately. I've had him on many a year. Once a month or so was the routine. He is a psychic, a friend of mine. I don't really do the psychic thing most of the time because they're either bad or just fakes or whatever. But Jim is real good at his specialty, in my opinion, is one-on-one with doing things with people. I mean, that's why I suggest if you want to actually talk to Jim, he has done a lot of good stuff for people, including myself and other people who have called him. So I recommend him on a one-on-one basis, a personal basis. Though he does talk about psychiatry. Is that a word? The art of psychic. And it also talks about world events and whatnot. He'll pick up some energy and so on. We'll get to that. But I want to talk to him about this whole idea of prescience. Now, what started this is I was rereading, or I should say re-listening, books on tape, to the DUNE series. I'm up to Chapter House DUNE and reaffirming that DUNE is the best book, and it just goes downhill from there. Though I do like God Emperor DUNE a bit. And it's like a lot of people, it's like a band when they put out a hit record and then they try to follow it up and it just starts to, and they lose like the original magic, lose the inspiration, the brain starts taking over, and it starts to think things up as opposed to flow. And you can hear this with music a lot of times. The band will, the band will just write the tunes, will come out of them, if you will. And then when they start using your head, it all falls apart. But anyway, back to the DUNE thing. One of the things that I listen to, let me go back. I think a lot of times when you're talking about the movie Matrix, for example, I mean, it's a movie, right? It's a book. Actually, that's another side issue. I had the lady on who originally wrote the story, The Third Eye, which supposedly was stolen to form the Matrix and get and Terminator series. How's that? But there's links to the interview I did with her years ago, and then we retouched base. Won her suit, won billions of dollars. Collecting may be another thing, but anyway, as I segued away, when you come to Matrix, it's a book, it's a movie, whatever, but it doesn't mean there's not truth in it. In the case of truth in metaphor, I thought The Matrix was a very good movie in terms of it was almost like a modern Bible story, if you will. Contained a lot of truth. Not necessarily literal truth. We're not sitting in pods connected to computers sucking energy. But the picture works of us, works nonetheless. Our consciousness, our creativity, and or our physical labor is being used to drive the world. This is where all these billions and trillions and quadrillions of dollars come from, is from people doing their stuff. But anyway, I digress. Let me get back. Let me go to the webpage. I don't have Jim here yet, but I'll just leave his picture there. And I'll put this website. I mean, I looked up the idea of prescience, or if you look at it, pre-science. Let me go to this first. Definition. The fact of knowing something before it takes place, foreknowledge. But But I want to say it's not like knowing something before it takes place. That's pretty clear cut. It can have an idea. You got a bad feeling something's going to happen, or bad or good, or hey, we should take this route, or I don't want to go in that room. You know, there might be logical reasons to not follow something or to follow something, but this is the illogical reasons. This is the irrational. This is the gut talking to you, to use metaphors, and to further work on the actual word prescience. It says foreknowledge. What I would tend to use would be a fore awareness. So it doesn't mean knowledge, gnosko, to know. It doesn't mean that you have deduced and you are waiting. It is having a fore awareness. And what I liked in the Dune series is the way that Herbert wrote it into characters. And to read from this, prescience is a term commonly used to describe the ability to see both the past and present and future, some awareness spectrum, narcotics, blah, 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 blah. Forget the drug part of it because I'm not advocating any of that. God Emperor Leto Atreides that describes prescience as the ability to recognize patterns in history, repeating them over and over again, but to look forward in the present and to go into the future. And what I got from these, I'm reading here now because I'm not. Yeah, Leto in God Emperor Dune and Leto was, the idea is that he saw every timeline he examined. This is a fictional book, but I'm using it as a metaphor. Every timeline he examined, he saw humanity being extinct. And so he kept altering the present, which would then alter the future. Go back to this. Then it would alter the future, and then now he can look down this timeline, and he could see, nope, and he kept on like trial and error, do this, look there, and he could see this. And this is how it happened in there, and it was the golden path, and it was he was a brutal dictator, but his excuse was that he was keeping humanity from being extinct. Now I want to touch with that because I like the idea of the presence being a relationship with the present, past, and the future. Because as I'm talking about presence, it's more of the present and future. Problem with the past could color your logic. It can color your choices. You can have a fear, or you can say, well, this is how it happened before. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't take it in consideration, okay? You use the past as, information. The idea of presence is being in the future, being affected by being the present, affected by the future, and affected by the past, and there's that relationship. The reason why I say this is because I do think there is prescience, that it's part of humanity. And but it, unfortunately, like most things spiritual, whether you can actually get information from God, develop a so-called dialogue, and I don't mean like, hey, James, how you doing? Okay, God, how are you doing? I don't mean, that is not my point, but there's this relationship where you can develop information that comes. And the problem is that the connections, the wiring that it comes on is very subtle. This is why, and of course I don't have it ready because it's in my head and I have to find it and it would be boring. But there is a passage about I think it's in it's in the Old Testament. It talks about and then there was a whirlwind, but God wasn't in it. And then there was this, and God was in it. But then there's still a small voice, and that was God. And see, God has this communication through us. Now, I'll put links down. I put out a video explaining how I think the connection of the soul, spirit, the human mind, the conscious, all this is connected to how it interacts. And I'm not going to go into it now to waste time, but I will put the links below where you can listen to that. But in this passageway, you start way back or way up or whatever is God. A piece of God is where it comes down to is us. And there's that thread. And that thread, as information comes through there, this is why you have to be still. You hear meditation, prayer and meditation, and you have to ponder it. You go out in a forest and just blank your mind. You know, I mean, just kind of allow yourself to hear, and can't read, and traffic noise, or you're working. All this stuff blocks this communication because it's a very primordial and very subtle, and perhaps probably in more primitive societies, there's a lot more communication, though it's going to be more base and not necessarily intricate, but necessary. And it's probably where the whole inspiration for ancient religions and what's starting. Anyway, you have this connection. So the problem comes in when your fear, when your prejudice, when peer pressure, programming from growing up, programming from schools and all this stuff programs you so that your responses come when something comes up and you want to know what I should do. You have these things jump first. Boom, they jump right in front. And that is where you have to get past all of that, past the whirlwind to the still small voice. And I think there is prescience. Now, prescience, in my opinion, is also not, all this is my opinion, by the way. And I'll get to some of the backgrounds of how I have done this. Prescience is something that is not, how do I say this? When God communicates with us, for everything God does with us is for our highest, best good. I mean, even the evil stuff around us is allowed to happen. I mean, let's face it, God allows evil. He's got reasons. But God allows evil to happen. So the question is that when evil happens, what you look around and say, what can I possibly learn from her? What's the point? What's the deal? I mean, it might be not necessarily for you personal, but it might be for your family or for your greater thing, or if you're in a company or you're in the government. The stuff that happens is for the highest, greatest good of you and all those around you in your sphere of influence. That's why when you're out actually popular, you're a president of a company, or you have millions of followers who are listening to you, the stakes go up in your life because you're now, in a way, you have your life is because for the highest best good for you and all those around you, and as you spread your influence, therefore, the things that happen into your life are for more reasons. So anyway, this prescience. So you have to practice to get off the normal programming, and you have to follow prayer and meditation. And a lot of it is ambiguous. If you look up in the ancients talking, some will come up with very legalistic stuff, especially in the Hindi. They come up with all these meditations where you say a bunch of words over and over and over again. And one of the advantages to saying words or singing or humming is that it keeps your mind busy while your consciousness can expand out into your body, because your mind grabs your consciousness, because it's the most aggressive thing in your body is your mind. Boom, consciousness, boom, it grabs it. But the rest of your body wants to be involved in this, and so if you want to develop or connect to prescience, a relationship and talking with God, or your higher intelligence, your soul, for example. Some people connect with beings, which is a little dangerous, because are they good beings? Are they taking you for a ride? Are they screwing with you? And we'll talk with Jim later about that, because he has more experience with that. I avoid all of that. I don't want to talk to nobody. I mean, I used to see faces, especially when I would go to sleep at night. I would be like if you took my closed eye and you'd have like a sheet, and then you have someone sitting there from about their neck or breast, throat upwards, and they're just like looking at me. and there are various types of humans. Some are a little weird, and I would just I'd be laying in bed trying to go to sleep, and I'd see some face staring at me. It's like, hey, what's up? Get out of here. And they go away. And finally, I'd just say, no faces, is what I would say, and it would all go away. Now, I'm not saying they're evil or bad. Maybe they're voyeuristic. Maybe they're checking things out. Maybe I'm unaware and I'm reaching out. Or no, I don't want none of this. I want my communication to come within. And it's not coming into my own head. It's not that I'm creating it. It's not ego. It's the idea of that I think there's an infrastructure built in humanity, probably all of creation, as in a relationship to their consciousness. Perhaps instinct may use this communication. It also could be bred inside the DNA as... But anyway, this is the aspect of it. So if we have a definition of prescience is the being in the now and looking toward the future, short or long, and trying to get a wider reference point to look at rather than your eyes. And when you got the past, you have a reference point. You got experience. Well, I know when this happens to do this, that's a reference point not to be ignored. In fact, if it wasn't for that, we'd all be dead. We'd all be extinct. Hey, why shouldn't I jump across over this cliff again? The guy comes behind me, goes, why did he jump off that cliff? I mean, I understand that, but the idea of the prescience is like as a combination of learning from the past, in the present, in the future, and raising your consciousness to be able to get information. Now, Richard Allen Miller talks about doing this. He calls it your gut. And how if you got to do a split in the road and you have no information, how you can reach in and get some information from that. So Richard L. Miller has done work on this for back in the Navy SEAL days, early days, and how you can teach to do this stuff. This is where you have this to me is normal. If we were living in a world that wasn't corrupted and fallen and in being in control by psychopaths, and we were properly trained and loved by parents and teachers and whatnot, we would all be having this stuff would be normal, okay? And we wouldn't be getting cancer and falling off buildings and all this stuff. We would all be doing this stuff together. This is how I look. And this is how I look if I can be Leto, Atreides, and how I'm looking in the future and comparing it. And I can see where we're lined up totally wrong to get to the point where I think God had created the earth and humanity to get to a certain point, and we're off that point. So if you're going to change the pathway and line it up to that area, this is where prescience is coming about, but it is a very hard task in a world sense. So all you can do is worry about you. So back to prescience, when I posted about this, one of the things I'm saying is that people limit themselves to what they can do. First off, they may limit themselves to only their calculating brain, very logical calculating, and they won't take any gut stuff. They won't take any, you won't take any information, So it's. I read the chat room there and I lost what I was doing. So I don't mind me in the chat room. I just can't now. I'm on like I talk about my prescience and on my connection here. Okay, well, I'm just going to pick it up and go because I can't find out where I left off. The idea of this whole prescience idea is to be able to pull this information together. So, and I was on a really nice track. When you're trying to look for this, I shouldn't say trying about it. I say I want to get back to track, and it's starting to come back to me. All right. I had the problem with one of the problems doing live for me. I wish I could just stop and go watch the tape. I can't do that. You see, a lot of times when I'm doing this, I feel inspired that I'm connecting into this higher flow of things. So when I'm talking, it flows through me and it comes out. And sometimes when I'm saying this, I'm hearing this for like the first time, or I'm hearing it said this way. And, well, that sounds pretty good, So I'm connecting through this type of deal. So when I use my mind, goes to read something, for example, it cuts that flow. And now I got to get the flow, the mojo back back again. The problem I have with you, I've limited myself, and I suggest limiting yourself to your internal structure, and you can learn to connect that. The problem with reaching out for other entities for information is what are you reaching out to? Because you have your various aspects that cross over this. You have your fears, you have your programming, all the things I mentioned before that cross against this pathway that goes, information highway that goes from your physical you, your body, person, all the way back to God. And as you have that situation, the information can get, it takes work, right? So some people use drugs. Very dangerous. Now, could it work if we had a civilization that hasn't fallen, and that has grown in love and toward God and all this stuff, and they've studied various drugs? There might be ways for a shaman or a priest or whatever you call it that could help work. I mean, maybe it's possible, but it's screwed up. The stuff has been, LSD is not even natural, all right? You have all the stuff that's been created. So, to me, drugs are out. And what they could do is to connect you with these external entities. And I'll get into that. Boy, I'm really mad I forgot where I was going because it was a nice flow. When you have the connection to entities, it'd be like if you ask somebody for directions. And you're in a strange town. You see somebody, hey, can you tell me how to get to so-and-so? And they go, yeah, you go down this corner, you go down that corner, you go down there. And then you do that and drive off into a canyon or something. You don't know if that person is telling you good information or not. You're trusting that person who has so-called insight or a different vantage point to give you information. Now, how more dramatic is that is if you trust a psychic and or a spirit, whether it be a demon or whatever. You might get someone who help you. You might get a good angel or whatever that connects you, but the problem with that is you're risking. So when you get information, you can't just trust it anyway. Someone will tell you what's going to happen, or here, go this way and do that, and you don't know if it's true, and you're going to only to find out is by actually doing it, and now you like that guy gave you the direction, you're off in the cliff. So that's why I think of generally. I mean, we're going to have Jim on later, who's a psychic, but psychics and tarot in general, tarot and all these things aren't good things to learn because the person is going to be able to tune in and get caught up by somebody. And the rule of thumb here, I'm going to throw a bunch of rule of thumbs out here. The rule of thumb is that the higher the source of information, the more complex it is and the more personal it is. All right? So when you hear a psychic and you're talking, I should save some of this for when Jim comes on in a few, but when you have a psychic and they say, yeah, I'm seeing a letter M or something, you go, yeah, I got a brother named Mark. Oh, yeah, okay, Mark. Now, is it true? Is he trying to connect into your information and read your things? And because you're dealing in an irrational, non-linear, non-logical, non-text-driven environment, what comes through is the M, and then when you see the M and you connect it, it's possible. It's possible. I've done this stuff, right? So, I mean, I'm speaking experience-wise, though I don't, it's not something that I would do as a trade. I have it in my toolbox, and I've used it as I felt led. So this is the aspect of it. When you're going to somebody, what I did when I did readings is people would come to me, and I would give a prayer, and I would pray to God, Jesus, protect me from all the ne'er-do-wells, right? All I want to do is offer a possible service to get some information that God would like to have this person receive, but is being blocked for some reason. I called it like jumper cables. You would put jumper cables on to get information. It would go from God to me. It would come through God to me, to them, through my mouth. God would be on the inside. Holy Spirit, God, whatever, would be on the inside. So when I say this stuff, it would, boom, it would be a key inside them, right? This is how I did it, how my vision of it, and it did happen. And several times when I would say this stuff, it was encoded. It made no sense to me. I'm saying kind of dumb things. Like to give you an example of one, I'm not mentioning the guy's name or nothing, so I'm not. I saw a picture of a Roman helmet, the kind with the brush on it, the guys that roll red helmet, and I saw a yellow bird going around it. And the message was he wants to find a girlfriend, eventually to marry. He wants to settle down, but the message was he's got armor on him, protecting him from nobody could even come close. And he's afraid because he had a pretty decent business he built up. He's afraid that someone's going to marry him and then divorce, and he'd lose money and all this stuff. And so he's created this barrier so nobody can get around and get through. And that's when I said, well, you're going to have to take the barrier down. I mean, it's a risk. You could just not do it. That's fine. But you're going to have to let some people in and use other methods in discerning. That's just one of them. There's a bunch of them. And so the problem with doing that, I mean, I was sincere, wasn't connecting to any entities, going to God in prayer, giving the information for the highest, best good. I mean, I say these prayers openly when I do this, and I would give the information, and the person would either get it or not get it. Most of the time they got it. Some of them they were like goosebumps. They were like, because it hit them so strong. And I'm thinking, okay, there's success. And that's it. Don't see me next week. I took donations. I felt funny about it because I just didn't like the idea of doing it. Now Jim's going to come on, and he does. So this is just me, and I could be wrong. I took donations. How much? Just whatever you think or nothing, whatever. And so I felt better about them donating. And same thing with the show, for that matter. I don't charge nothing. It's based on if anyone wants to donate, that's fine. So my point on the prescience is that was an information password. The kind of prescience that I got from the DUNE series, what they meant, and how I've seen happen even in my life, and how I think is out there, is that, and I like the way that they said it in DUNE, is just kind of lining up. Now, when people say, yeah, I want to be, I watch people, what's that, not Dancing with the Stars, what's the other one, like X Factor or whatever it is, American Idol. These people are singers, right? Most of them are singers. In fact, they're all singers when I think about it, but performers. And so what's your goal? I want to be famous. I want to be rich. I want to travel the world, and I'm like, what? No, your goal should be, I want to be able to have the ability to create with my talents, enhance them, train them, expand on them, and be able to create whatever it is. Acting, writing songs, singing songs, producing movies, whatever it is. I want to be able to take these talents and have a infrastructure to do this so that I can do the best I can with the talents, whatever. Not, yeah, I want to be famous, and I want to have thousands of people screaming at me, and it's like, lost. So you can follow a mental road path for your life that it's been given out by people who are, if you want to make a certain amount of money, but there's time, there's ways to do it, there's plans. Of course, all those plans are kind of going down to pooper now with the stock market being just beyond descriptionally overvalued, beyond amazement. But this is the plan for your life. God knows your talents. God knows you so good that if you follow God's lead in your life, you will be and learn and be the best you can for you and others. So like the path that God has planned for you, so he looks at you and goes, here's you are. I know your talents. God can see this whole prescient line. God's vision on this prescience, like this God, but God's actual presence is perfect. Now let me stop there for a minute. might have to get Jim here in a few minutes. He's literally at home waiting. But let me get this. This is I want to start at 32. Learn the parable of the fig tree when its branch has already became tender and puts forth its leaf, you will know summer is near. So you too, when you see all these things, recognize that he is near, right at the door. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until these things come to place. Now, let's just skip over to what is the prophecy given here. Hold on. This is what I know. This is when I know I'm doing the right thing. When I'm doing the right thing, all this stuff gets in the way. So I gotta. So let me take this. This is I think prescience in this verse. When you see the leaves, you know summer's near. You too. When you see these things, recognize that the prescience is near. The information you need, God's message is near. It's right at the door. And let's say this. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass till these things come. Let's just say in this application of this, in your life, things will happen. You know, like when you see this stuff happening, okay, pay attention because you're now in this present relationship, prescience, and so that it's going to come through. Now, it doesn't mean you got to figure out what it is, but you're in this prescience and you make a choice and you go through. Now, you might not get through the prescient moment. You've changed the future. You've took the information that came through for God. You've made this choice. You've changed the future, and you may never know what you've changed. Let me give a very basic example. Driving down in my truck at night, I'm coming down the highway. I'm coming down the street. It was back when I was at Fannie Mae years ago. No reason whatsoever. I get this incredible urge to look to my left. So I'm driving along. I just looked to my left, and out of my vision, because it wasn't like I got a peripheral, which is still cool. I've done this with peripheral. Like, you know, I've driven for 34 years. I mean, you know, I'm seeing with all eyes. That's why it's, you know, being on a motorcycle, having my experience with trucks and all that. I mean, you're constantly looking everywhere. You know, you're not looking. But this was out of my vision, and I looked, there's a car coming directly off the highway, but it wasn't doing anything wrong. Coming down off the highway, wasn't like speeding excessively. Coming down off the highway, and he just goes right in front of me without stopping, without any indication, no squealing, no nothing, just goes right through the red light, right in front of me. But I had this prescience. I look, and I hit the brakes. And I locked up all 18 wheels, and boy, that's the first time that happened to me, and boy, did they howl. It was really a spooky sound, all of them, you know. And the car went right out in front of me, and if I wouldn't have done that, I would have hit him or he would have hit me, either way. And if I would have hit him, he'd been dead. So there's an example, kind of quickly, kind of fast, but when you get the feeling of prescience, you get this season is near, pay attention. Recognize it's right at the door. The actual time you're in is not going to pass until this prescient thing is done. Now, if you do it, you don't do it, that's still a choice. So if you're in the moment, you got this urge, I don't know, I should, and you don't, you've still made a choice. And you're still on that same path. You had a choice. You had this moment in time, this vortex where God, your whole line was to make that choice. But I want to mention this. But of that hour and day, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, nor Jesus, as Jesus meaning the man, the Son, but the Father alone. And here's the important part. That information that you can get at the perfect timing and moment, the right season, comes from God. You might get good information on the side, from friends, family, from angels. But in your moments, you have that direct line with God, and you develop this kind of relationship where you're flowing with the info. Then all of a sudden, info comes at the right place and time. Doesn't have to be like the car where it's, it could be like, it's funny. I'll give you an example of a success and failure in my own Prescience. I got this big urge to buy Bitcoin. I know it's going to go up, right? So I bought Bitcoin, not terribly early on. And it went up to almost $20,000, which is, I paid under, it was 18, I think it was at the time. And I actually took, hard money that I needed to do stuff. I knew I should buy it. And it went up to $20,000. And then it went down. It's down now to 6.5. Didn't sell. I had my own vision of it going to be a new staple for like the Treasury. Let's see, call it the new Treasury bill. Right, was going to be Bitcoin. Now it could have been. That might have been a possible prescience. But what happened was in late December, the SEC, Federal Security Exchange Commission, okayed the selling of future shorting of Bitcoin. So now what you could do is you could say, hey, I think Bitcoin's going to go down. Right now it's almost $20,000, right? So you buy a bunch of shorts, you sell your Bitcoin, a lot of them, take your profit, it goes down, you cash in on your short. When it goes down to a certain amount, you buy Bitcoin again. You take your original money and your short money, buy Bitcoin again. It drives it up. You sell the short, you bring it down, and they ruin Bitcoin. And so don't give me the HODL and the MODL and the YODL and all that other stuff. They've ruined Bitcoin. And with the advent of 1 trillion other cryptos, it could have happened. Maybe it wouldn't have. But it's definitely not now. So all I'm waiting for is I'm studying I might even have it here, and I'm getting off track here. Here's the year. All right, so all the way up, and you could see every time it hits a point is always lower than a previous one. As this one was higher than here, but it didn't go up past here. You see how it is? There's another one that's higher than here, but not here. That's called Bearsville, by golly. Get their CBs out talking about them bears. And so now it's just waiting to, and it's still, well, of course, still made money on it, but I could have made, so here's where I'm talking to God going, when do I sell? What do I do? I got the goal to get the thing going, and look where it went. But my head took over, and I disconnected. Now, maybe there wasn't prescience in what to do with it. Maybe my head was supposed to learn and do it. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't even precedence. Maybe it was my head all the way along. I don't know. Let me get back to the verse here. But of that day and hour, no one knows. You're not going to get information saying, yeah, next week stuff's going to happen on that. You might, but you're getting various. Look at it as various prescient parallel universes. And you go to a psychic, you do a tarot or what have you, and let's say you don't get a bad guy, which right off the bat I wouldn't do any of it because of that. But you get information, right? It doesn't mean it's your timeline. You see, only you and God are on that absolute timeline for you. There's only you and God. And people can look off to the side, and it might be a similar timeline, and it might be helpful because it might not be that big of a deal. It might not be that. It might be a short-term thing that's on many different timelines. And when you're doing it, it's not that big of a deal. But your lifeline in time, there's only one individual, God alone, not the Son, not the angels. No one knows. God knows. And let me get back to this one. When a prophet speaks in the name of God, remember, God knows, right? So if a prophet says, hey, God told me this about you or about the world or whatever, and the thing does not come about or come true, That is the thing which the Lord has, that is the thing which the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. Maybe they were evil, liars, or mistaken, or maybe they're listening to other spirits. You should not be afraid of him. I would use the word respect. You should not pay attention to his words. Because God can give information to somebody through somebody. I give the example. I pray that was what it was. When I was doing the readings, I was getting information, give it to him. God can give information that's worthy for the other person. They have the option to listen to it or not. But when you hear a prediction and it doesn't happen, you cannot trust that individual to be giving God's information. In fact, it's a very rare thing, and it's probably grace that it is. You can probably go to a psychic and get information from God in spite of the psychic, and God has done these things because God uses the situation you're in. It's not that He wanted you to go there. You get in a dysfunctional, bad relationship, God will use that relationship to grow you and help others around you in the relationship and whatnot. Maybe just kids will be touched by you, even though you don't have a relationship with the wife or the husband. So this is the important part, is when you have this prescient relationship with God, God sees the whole, He looks at you right now and goes, right now where you're at, with your finances, your timeline, your situation, your health, your responsibilities, God has all of that lined up, and He has lined up, He's lined up the perfect line from that point for you to be the best you can be, to be as joyful you can be, the more help you can be. And right there, the best line, the best being the best you can do for the best for all involved, for yourself and all involved. That line, God knows every second of the day. And every choice you make, sometimes maybe we're on the line, probably a lot of times we're off the line. So when we make this choice, a new timeline forms. And this is where I think when I got back to the Lido, for those who've read the book, Got Up or Doom, these timelines, he kept on making choices, new timelines, because he could see in the book, he could see the way out there. And we can't see way out there. But we have clues around us. We have clues. We have our principles that are taught. Jesus' words, I think, are the greatest principles for a moral, spiritual life. You follow those principles. You pray in meditation with God, and you check in with that timeline via God, and you keep ball. Sometimes God doesn't answer it like, what should I do next? Because God is not here to hold your hand through life. He's offering suggestions to make it the best way it can be. And sometimes it's really bad. You got to go through bad stuff. Not got to. Your timeline is going through bad stuff. Sometimes grace can get you out of it. Sometimes you got to go through it. And it's not necessarily because you've been good or bad. It's just the way it is. Well, I like that verse. God said, I think it was Psalms, though he may slay me, I would praise his name. Now, let me rephrase that in a more modern love context. Though I may perish in my timeline, though I may suffer in my timeline, though things may not happen that I want to happen, I am going to still praise God, who is watching this timeline intimately, day and night, from the beginning of time, knew you in the womb, knows you every moment at a time, is watching. And that's why you would praise the name, because God is the unique position of being the defense attorney and the judge. And Satan and humanity around us is the prosecutor. And so that's why you have this precedent. So I think prescience is a real function of humanity. But the time it comes, You don't know the day or the hour, but God knows. And you got to be ready for it. And when it comes, beautiful thing. And many times in my life, I can retrace steps in my life and see where the time came. Some of it's grace. It was me turning my neck to look at this guy. It was grace. God looked at the timeline. He goes, you know what? This timeline to me, there is no good for those people or others around there. I'm going to step in. And then there's somebody being kidnapped and living for a year in a basement somewhere. How is that good? Good can come of it. I don't justify it. It's totally wrong. The person should be severely punished. You know, if there was death penalty for it, I had no problem with that. That's not the point. The point is that person has been put in a particular time, stumbled, have been bullied, whatever. They're in this timeline. God has allowed it for a number of reasons. I'm not an apologist trying to justify God. I didn't do anything. But when you come to God and say, what do I do with this? I mean, I just lost 10 years of my life. I've been beaten. I've been sexually abused. What do I do with this? What do I do with this, God? There's an answer. And again, this is where I think instead of now that I've been through this, isn't prescient in that you're getting foreknowledge. It's your choices are made. You have that magical moment of choice. Once that choice is made, you're changing the entire, the whole basis of the universe has changed now from this. This is why I like the physics, where it talks about quantum mechanics. They have an infinite waveform of possibilities. And when it goes past the observer, it breaks down into a subset of possibilities. And I would say that observer is not just observing; he is actually putting in information, which will then lower the choices, and that's what you are. You have infinite possibilities, and your choices that you make now, or people make on you, who push on you. I mean, that changes the timeline. But God can always get you. It's like, if there really is a timeline over here that he needs you to get to, and you're over here, you go to God and say, I want to get there. So, and a lot of times you're going to think you have prescience, and it's going to be fears, it's going to be habits, it's going to be, I'm in this habitual situation. To get out of it's uncomfortable. So obviously God wants me to stay here or whatever. There's all these things that are going to mask. They're going to be interference. They're going to be fake prescience. They're going to be fake God's information that's coming to you. And you have to learn to weed it out. This is the stuff I've done over the years. So now throw me in this whole Trump fake news, MSM situation here, to Q, Planet X, all of these things. I came from that trying to separate BS from reality and truth. That's where I came from with all this stuff. So now you set me in the middle here, and I can go through some of these things, some more quickly than others, and I can pull out presciently why things are wrong. And later on, more data comes out to either shift a little bit, correct it, or confirm it. A fairly decent, now, certain blind spots I've had in my life, if someone were to look at my life and say, wait a minute, you did this, what about this, what about that? I know there's some total blind spots. Why they're totally blind, I can't answer that. So that's why I wanted to leave them. I should call Jim, because I was supposed to call. Jim, can I call you at 7:30? Because I don't want to. Yeah, no problem. Normally he doesn't, come earlier. So let me give him a call here. I'm going to do this live. I have to tell him. Using Skype to call his phone.
Hello?
Jim, you are live on Feet to the Fire Radio. I had to give you a cold call there, so I want to give you a warning.
Yes.
You know, so that we are live. Now, I told you, I talked, I was just telling the people I talked to you, I said, yeah, I'm going to call you about 7:30 because I, you know, and so my mouth has just been going blah, 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 blah for the last 55 minutes, so.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up calling you about this, about 8 o'clock anyway, so.
I understand wholeheartedly. That's okay. Are we on now?
Yes, you're on. We're live.
Oh.
Going out on YouTube, Spreaker, to everyone all over the world. Oh, boy.
Cool. I'm so glad. I am so glad.
Now, I want to mention there's people in the chat room that if you want to ask them a question, you can do that. Again, this is public, so Jim's answers are going to be for public. And we've had people who have followed up privately, and you were able to give them, you know, more private stuff. But so don't have to worry about asking a question and having, you know, hey, is my wife fooling around with the guy next door? Yeah. Next question.
I'll just say, let me show you the pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And you go, oh, is that your wife? Oh, no. Anyway,
yeah,
I'll tell you what I've done is I've been talking about prescience, and I've been talking about the ways people can get information through their own pipeline to God and the risks and rewards with going to other people. I was laughing because I'm talking about people going to psychics and all that, and yet I'm having you on. But the reason why I deal with you, and I have only 2 people that I deal with that would be called, quote, psychics, unquote, that's you and Dr. Rita Louise, is because of the, not even like the results, like meaning like, oh, he told me some cool stuff and I won stock or whatever. No, it's that at the moment of discussion and need, through your mechanisms, you delivered information that was needed perfectly at that time, which is the topic of this prescience, the idea that at any given moment in time, there's information that that could be given to you by God. If your own personal system is worked out and got a good plan, sure. But there is other people. Exactly. It's just that you got to be careful because there's probably way more no goods than goods, at least in my experience. So,
well, and there's a big to do with it as far as being clear with yourself. I've worked with many, many people who had a traumatic issues going on, and we all have had them, and I've had them too. And when I have them, I just refuse to work for that at that particular time because I'm not clear. And it's very important to be of balance when you're doing this work.
Now, you see, I want to stop you real quick. That's why I talk to you. You just said something big, important thing. When you're got stuff going on in your life and you can't be clear for the person you're talking to, and you don't work. You see, that's the concept, is that you have this, you understand that your own stuff can get in the way, and so that you either use routines to stop that or whatever. Go ahead.
When people want to do, I do not do spells, but there are people who teach spells. And the reason why I don't do what we would refer to as spells is because I have to know that you are of balance before you pull somebody else's energy. Because if you pull their energy and you're not balanced, you're going to throw their energy off. So it's very important. But that's one of the problems today, is everybody has an opinion about everything, and we don't need to have an opinion about everything. It's not that you can't be observant to life. One of the things that I find interesting is there's a very, very little difference between an opinion and an observation. Now, if I'm at a restaurant and I see 2 guys giving each other a hug, I watch a football game, and I see 2 guys giving each other a hug. I don't think there's anything really going on there. But if I observe 2 men in a restaurant who are in a passionate embrace, then you can make an observation that there's something going on. So there's a big difference between and being aware of observations, because it doesn't bother me. I mean, I don't understand because it's not in my realm that I have to deal with. So observations are different than opinions. And there's a famous joke, everybody has, it's just like everybody has one. But
right.
Yeah, but it's we don't, and everywhere we go, everywhere we're challenged to express our opinions. And it doesn't matter anyway, and that's what amazes me about all the social medias. Dancing with Stars. Call in. American Idol. Call in. Who do you want to vote for? Who do you think is best? Well, I know when they're doing Dancing with the Stars, they have 4 judges in the panel. The 4 judges are somehow connected with either a dance professional or something that they have an opinion about, a knowledge of how to do a tango or a rumba or whatever. I don't. So how can I have an opinion whether that was good or not?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the point, is they get you to call in. They use those callings also for ratings to see how many people are listening, how many people are, and plus they give you 10 votes. You can vote for everybody, and so therefore it doesn't even matter. But
right.
Yeah, people like that when you want to know what their opinion is. That's why social media is. I mean, here's people doing selfies. Here I am today, I'm brushing my teeth, and now I'm rinsing my mouth. Yeah. It's like, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much, and I don't know where this cloud is going. One of these days, this cloud is just going to explode with all this information that's stacked into it somewhere, somehow. And there's a lot more programming. I won't mention the hotel I was at in Vegas one time, and it was in the building stage. And I had someone I know who was in the construction end, and he was taking us through this particular hotel. And I was going like, this is the ugliest carpeting I've ever seen in my life. Who would stay in this room? This carpeting there's nothing relaxing. There's nothing attractive. It was horrible. And I said, they must have got this stuff really, really cheap. And he says, no, it was the most expensive carpeting that had ever been put in a hotel at that time. I said, what? Why? It's awful. They don't want you to stay in the room. They don't want you to look at the floor. They want you to look at the slot machines.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, so if they're going to that extreme to try and get me back into the casino, try and take my money, what else are they doing? It's just, and it's the only place in the world you could have got into your hotel room at 2 a.m. and 6 o'clock in the morning, you're wide awake. You're like, I gotta go downstairs. But there's all kinds of and you wonder why. I mean, we can all get through without all this stuff. The idea of a driverless car. Why would I want a driverless car?
That you still have to pay attention to. You have to pay attention to, so it doesn't go through like a building or something, or hit a truck.
Exactly. And what is it going to do when there's a fire engine coming down the road, or whatever with that? But my thing is, I have 2 reasons why we should never have driverless cars. First of all, you're not paying attention, but that's another reason. But the 2 reasons, if you had a driverless school bus, would you let your kindergarten kid get in that bus? And what's going to happen to stock car races? Oh, they're turning left. Oh, they're turning left again. They're turning left again. the soccer industry would go kaput. But just having the opportunity, this unconditional mind mapping that they're doing for us is mind-boggling. I've been to Disney many, many times. I like Disney. I think it's a neat place. But when you really see how programmed the whole setup is, it's truly, truly unbelievable. I go to Disney. I thoroughly enjoy it. I do all like the castle and everything thing. I get on the tram. I go to the back of the Disney. I get off at the back. I do the whole park in one day because I'm going against the grain of the traffic. And it really works very well. So we have to worry about how we're being programmed. And even with, we saw what happened with the election, and we saw what's going on today. And we have all these issues that, if you ask what Darfur is, nobody would remember. And the atrocities that were happening there 6 years ago, nobody knows. It's gone because the new thing is on the block. All these professional people in South Carolina, it's raining. Oh, it's a hurricane. Guess what? It rains. There's a lot of rain. Guess what? It's a hurricane. There's a lot of rain. There's flooding. Guess what? It's a hurricane. There's going to be flooding. I just don't understand. I mean, I just happened to look at it just now to see how it's going, but to spend the whole weekend watching it when right now, in my situation here in Chicago, I can't do anything about the flooding in South Carolina. I feel bad. I have empathy for the people, but I personally can't.
Well, a lot of the stuff they have on there is that people can plug in to watching the story and its emotion. Like, for example, you're seeing the person, boats going down the street and so on. You're like, oh, wow, look at that. It's because all of these shows that you deal with, you mentioned Dancing with the Stars or whatever, all these shows are meant for people to sit on a couch and plug in emotionally into what's going on and get that emotional feedback, which is either received in some way, some may say psychically, but at least your attention means something to the ratings, which means money. And so they realized years ago, it's been a long time coming, they've realized the way to get you to watch the TV is not through your head, but your emotions.
Mm-hmm. And when you... Go ahead.
And I'm also, just what I mentioned earlier, too, is that emotions cloud your inner connection with your soul and God, so that when you're nervous or upset, you can't reach for the inside connection with God. You react with the fear program that you're getting from them. So they got to keep you disconnected from God by constantly have this emotional roller coaster revving you up and revving you up and hitting you and so on.
Right. And what's really amazing, what we've done in today's world between the Instagram and the media is people will say, I have 700 friends. I'll say, well, good. Call them when you want to move. No, nobody's coming to help you move. But we want to be programmed to have all these people in connection with that we really don't even know. So it's like walking to a high school reunion at a school you never went to. It's like I got all these people I know, but I don't know them. And when we talk about being a connectedness, one thing that happens, we lose faith in ourselves. everybody thinks you have to have faith in God. No, you have to have faith that God's given you to believe in yourself. And once you do that, you've got a strong faith in God. And if you have a strong faith in a higher being, you don't have anger, fear, and frustration. Because when you have those issues, that means you don't have faith. If you have faith in, we're all going to have issues. We're all going to have tragedies. We're all going to have awarenesses. But unless we act on our own faith, that we're going to have issues, but with a faith, we're going to be pulled through anything that is confronted to us. It may not be the way you wanted to be pulled through, but you will be pulled through. And it's when you see the guys who are doing the one show I really don't understand, because I don't understand why anybody would want to do these things, the American Ninja Warrior. Why do you want to do that? I'm not saying the challenge is there, but you have to have faith that you could accomplish this. Otherwise, you would never, ever try to take the first step. So I give those people a lot of faith. But the minute they fall in the water, the whole audience go, oh no. Well, there's a good chance that half the people are going to fall in the water.
Oh, you want? They're actually watching them to see them fall in the water, basically.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly, because they know they can't do it. Why should he be able to jump up a wall and climb up a crooked wall that I have to crawl over and stuff like that? But it's we are in a situation that we are being judged, and the biggest problem with our being judged is we are the ones who are judging ourselves. And whether we're judging ourselves on how we compare to all our friends on Instagram, when we send things out, we want everybody to believe like I do. So then I'm right.
Yeah, they're coming with the programming of the judging standards, and the goal of the programming for the judging standards is to put you in a position that you can be used by the system, whether it be buying something or whatnot. I do have a bunch of questions kind of lining up that are more technical about your...
Okay, well, one thing I want to go over before we leave this, though, is the fact that what the worst part of Instagram is, it's to make us feel unworthy. Well, why did you wear that shirt? Why did you go to that show? Why did you, and what people don't understand is a positive comment like, gee, Jim, I like the way your hair looks today, versus a negative comment like, why are you wearing that outfit? That looks awful. If I had a client and you did that too when they first came in, they would forget that I said how nice their hair looks. They would remember I said that outfit looks awful, because the negative is always 10 times stronger than a positive. And we just need to help each other pull ourselves up with positive affirmation that you are worthy, you are magnificent, just the way you are. That sounds kind of quaint, but you are beautiful. It's like that song. But it's very important for us to understand that. Okay, back to the questions.
All right. Does Jim use dream time for seeing the future, like clairvoyance? So let me alter that a bit. Is your dreams at all ever involved in your own psychicness, or is it just you just dream and it's not related?
It's very, very related. It's called precognizant awareness. And the trouble we have with precognizant awareness, when we're giving information through a dream state, is the fact that when we get it, makes no sense whatsoever. I usually use a dream journal and just keep track, and then all of a sudden something will happen, and I'll be like, oh, that's what I really dreamt about that 2 years ago. It may not take. It may take 2 years. It may take 2 minutes. But when you're getting information from in a dream, now just because we dream about someone's death doesn't mean that that person's going to die. It's going to mean that that person is going to have an ending of something. It could be an ending of a marriage. It could be an ending of a rehab session that's helping them get better. It could be an ending of going to school and they're going to go on a new career or a job. It could be something as simple as an ending of communication with someone that is not supportive of that person.
Or it could be, also could be an ending of a bad thing. It's finished. You've turned a corner, and now it's going to go, up or forward or what have you.
Exactly. So when we have these awarenesses, when we have a dream about somebody dying, which can be a termination of their existence, but 99% of the time, it's that person's going to have a ending in their. You might sell an old car. Something new will happen, but they do give us a precognizant awareness.
Well, would you say this is about when your dreams are about you, or do you get dreams for other people?
I've had many dreams about other people, for other people. I will not understand. Just the other day, we were doing some mediumship, and I says, I don't know why I'm talking about this, but why on earth are you talking about your uncle and spoons? And the girl says, spoons? And he says, yeah, spoons. It was the fact that he used to make silver rings out of the back of the part of a spoon. And he made money selling that at craft shows and stuff like that. Okay, that's why the spoon came up. And usually when I'm doing mediumship, I know that there's a connection with that. I had one just recently, and it was just even preparing me with. I was having dreams about 1920 cars and bang bang bang, Al Capone type stuff and whatnot. And I said, what's the connection with like the old open car Cadillac and stuff like that? And she just looked at it and she says, yep, that was my grandpa. And I said, oh, okay, we won't go any further. So it was right on the calling. It would not, between the spoons and that, I would not have had a connection with that. But what I do want to bring up with, I don't know what happened to Teresa Caputo. I know she's still performing a lot, but I haven't seen anything about her on TV. Teresa is very, very blunt, and so is Sylvia Brown. And you got to be aware of that. Sylvia Brown always said, if you don't want the answer, don't ask the question. So she would be very blunt on how things were going or how things should be done and stuff. And I was at Stevens Center one time, and they were talking, and I said, I just can't handle this. It's just too direct. No sympathy whatsoever. She would say something like, this one gentleman got up and wanted to know how his mother's surgery was going. And she said, well, don't buy her. You don't need to worry about getting her a Christmas present. Whoa, no. We need to have approach of apathy for our clients. And when we have this, we have to have some sense of feeling. And
it sounds like this ego. We're talking about, when you talk about these big stars, that's where the ego, I mean, whether you're a psychic, an actor, or a sports figure, I mean, these stars, of course, sometimes, the difference between some of the people might be what it takes, but, I couldn't take any of those people seriously.
Yeah, I really and truly don't, I don't understand why people would pay the money that they pay to go to 2,000 people at the Stevens Center. And without a question of a doubt, the most she could possibly read for would be maybe 25. So let's just say 1,000 people, and she could only do 25 people in the evening. Well, that means you've invited 1,000 people to pay $500, $300, $50, whatever. And everybody is anticipating getting read. So if you're one of the 975 people who did not get a reading, you're going to feel neglected.
Well, I mean, if I can risk being too blunt, they should have been there anyway. And so perhaps no. I do have I'm very comfortable with 25 people in a room, maybe 30 in a room at a time, but I won't do any more than that. It's just ridiculous. And when you pull in all those energies, it's just like the movie Ghost, when Whoopi Goldberg finally connected with Patrick Swayze and all the other members of the other side wanted to come through. It was like, what? I can't just deal with, get out of here, get out of here. Energy doesn't listen to us very well. We listen to them, so it is a big issue. But a dream is a precognizant awareness. It may not always mean what we think it's going to mean. You may have, often I'll ask for 3 significant issues of the dream. And it may be water, it may be cold, and it may be a rug. Well, then we'll figure out from there what the message is supposed to be. And there's many, many dream books out there, and as many dream books as are out there. A horse means one thing, from one person, and it also means something else from the other person, or from the person who wrote it. So it's definitions of dream books are. I need to know what's going on in the person's life when that's happening. Yeah, well, I mean, for a lot of the dream stuff, I mean, I was talking earlier that a lot of the information that comes through on this wire, let's say, it's an irrational wire. I mean, it's not a linear, logical situation. You'll get pictures, you'll get symbols. I mean, this is why you look at some of the ancient writings is all symbols, because you get these irrational communications, and you have to kind of understand the symbol, and your symbols are yours. So, like, if I get a dream and I'm having this stuff and I'm looking to you for help, you're going to have to look into the key to my dream, so to speak, as opposed to it's not that it's symbols that mean the same for everybody, though they can, but this is why a lot of times to me it's just kind of worthless almost going to somebody unless they're able to tune into you and get your key to your dream and give you information to help you unlock it, because the person who's got the dream is going to have more dramatic download because they're telling you to dream. You're tuning in, like you're coming in looking through a window, so to speak, and seeing the soundstage rather than actually living on it like the person is.
Mm-hmm. Well, and not only that, people will get entrapped with their dreams, and they're looking for it to be something else, and not I've had the same dream over and over and over again. I said, well, what's the dream telling you to let go of? Because if you keep on thinking you're going to have that same dream, it's going to be the same dream.
No, I've had dreams. I've had dreams where they were different, but they had a similar theme. And so from those multiple dreams, you can start to pick out things and construct a point. I got a question. It's a very, very good one. How do you know who's on the other side? Like, this is why you do connect with entities. I just, whether it be I don't trust myself, I feel not capable enough, I don't want to take a chance. But to me, it's like, how do I know that I'm not picking with somebody who's having a good time with me? Then you don't necessarily have to tell you to jump off a bridge to be, we'll call it evil. They could just be like, hey, these humans, let me have some little fun here for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you know?
How do I know that it's a good impression?
Yeah.
Or a negative impression?
Yeah.
The good impression is one that causes, I'm able to do a lot of auric energy fields, the coloring around people's bodies. And when I sense a good energy from a dream, it puts me in the right direction. I know that this person is going to be trapped by their dreams. I know this person is sincerely looking for why I'm getting this information and who I'm getting it from. It's energy. Who made the hurricane in North Carolina? It's all energy. Everything in life is about energy. And when we understand there is good energy and there is also bad energy. And the observation of the two is what I deal with. I've had people come in to a session with me and they want to get a hold of their dad because they hated the SOB and he was drunk and he did this and he did that and he did this and he did that. And I said, do you really think they're going to come and make a communication with you? Because in your perspective, this was a horrible, horrible experience. Now, is there anything that you learn from his experiences that has brought you forward? And I said, oh, well, he was a horrible husband, and I've been a good husband to my wife for many, many years. That's positive energy. You learn from his wrongdoing.
Yeah, he taught him what not to do. Now, he could have, that's good because he could have taken, and as many do, they can become the next generation of problems, or they can be a victim and want everybody else to coddle them because of the problems they are, or you can take the situation and say, hey, look, I got a great front row seat of what not to do. It's not fun, but it is a practical, positive use of it.
Exactly. And one of the strangest things I've been working with of late is forgiveness of the worst energy that has been presented to you. And once you forgive them for whatever the issue was, I've had people come to me and I'll say, okay, just follow me. Just say your brother abused you when you were young. And I just said this was a gentleman that we were working with, and I said to him, just listen to what I'm saying and repeat me. I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry. You have no idea how sorry I really am. And at this they say, no, I can't do that. I says, no, you must do this. And it's because I'm very, very sorry for your inappropriate activity, which has stymied me from going forward. And it's just like, whoa, wait a minute. And it really, truly does work. You're putting yourself in a situation that you don't have to talk to that person. This is an AA. You don't have to go to other people that you maybe upset, borrowed money from and never gave it back, stole money from them and stuff like that. You don't. In this situation, all you have to do is declare your forgiveness for yourself from their inappropriate activity, and it makes a world of difference. So when there is negative energy out there, we do have to. It's like knowing they're reconstructing the main road down the street, the main road I use all the time. Okay, I can get down that road without too much aggravation, but I'm willing to go the extra half mile to go to the other street that I can drive down clearly. So why would I drive down that crappy road and moan and groan about it all day? I got rocks in my tires. A rock cracked my window. Because you put yourself in that situation. And life becomes so much more simple when we understand it's all about a great deal of... What my point of view is for people and trying to find them contentment. One of my relatives, we were just together over the weekend. He just bought a new Mercedes, and I wasn't surprised. He'd been successful, and he's always had nice automobiles. And I got a little bit of jealousy there. Like, holy crap! It's a phenomenal machine. Do I want to give the state of Illinois $10,000 in sales tax to buy a foreign car? Absolutely not. Do I want to pay $400 for an oil change? No. So when I can drive my car, drives nicely. I'm very happy with it. I'm comfortable in the automobile, and we're okay. If it's down the road, I might decide to change, but I'm not going to spend $100,000 for a car.
I mean, the sense is you realize what the car's job is, and you want to have it as nice as in that cost performance curve. Let me now I want to explain a couple things here to people who are listening who perhaps have just never listened to Jim before. I mean, you go back in our archives, there's plenty of stuff. Jim is one of these guys who's not on the internet. He doesn't read the internet news. He doesn't get the conspiracy theories, so to speak, that are on the internet. And so what I like to do sometimes is ask him about some of these issues, because he definitely is coming in from left field. And I don't mean left, meaning liberal field, but, what I'm saying is he's on it. Before I get to that, somebody had asked about Kundalini. Do you know?
Kundalini, yeah, I know about it. It's Kundalini is rising. It's very, just as we said in the very part of this, this can be done through many different foreign energies, like I want to say, like Hinduism will rise your Kundalini. I can't think of the name of what the other word was I was trying to come up with. But you have to know that if you're going for a session to have your energy raised, it's like being standing in a solid position with both feet on the ground and feeling the surge of energy that comes up through the spinal column all the way to the head, or being standing on ice skates in an ice skating rink and having the same surge of energy coming up. You can get really screwed up if you're not standing on solid ground when you go for that. You can get severe headaches. You can get all kinds of nervousness. If you're in good shape and you're feeling like you can accomplish this, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But don't think that you rising your Kundalini is going to help you if you're in the middle of a divorce.
Right. Yeah, a lot of times the people who are, this is why I'm an advocate of your natural, following a natural progression within your idea. Because if you step out of it, say you're a Christian or not even any religion per se, and you say, hey, I want to get my Kundalini, that sounds cool, and you go to a session and they're able to actually do this. The problem is now is you have this, forgive the puns, the snake on a loose here, and there's a lot of energy flying around. It's not like you go there and it's like, oh, that was cool, and then you go on with your life. It's like, by definition, if you follow the point, it's a change in your life, dramatic change forcing yourself upward in terms of spiritual evolution. So going in there and going like, yeah, I think I'll go to see a movie. No, let's go get our kundalini raised. You know, you're asking for trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, forgetting any of the other side issues of having demons or, you know, crackpots or whatever, you know, forgetting all that aside, just looking at it straight up, you got to know what you're looking for.
Exactly. Well, that's like even with past lives. I always tell people, please, past lives are very, very real, solid connections to our from whence we've come. And just recently, it's rather amazing with all these things you can write in and get your DNA tested, and they'll tell you, you know, you thought you were from Hawaii, but you were actually from Czechoslovakia. Your great grandfather was a king of England, or all this stuff. You know, it's like, oh, please stop it.
But, give you a little paranoia on that. When you do send this DNA information in, it has the ability to be passed along to a database for, let's just say, for monitoring oppressively or whatnot. I mean, you got to be somebody worth monitoring, you know. But it's not like, the point is, whenever you give you DNA stuff out, the whole goal in the government is to have a DNA registry. So not only do they know, you know, they have it, like if they found somebody's DNA and a criminal, they can go look at the DNA and find a criminal. Okay, that's good, right? You know, but it also can be used politically. I mean, we're watching what's going on with the FISA warrants and how Trump and his things were spied upon with lies to get the FISA warrant. I mean, the idea of having the ability to spy on someone for nefarious reason, you know, having the various situations going on. All right, fine. It's the abuse of it. And so a lot of times, I mean, I know one way I'd like to know where my ancestry is, though I have a pretty good idea. It's like, you know, they quote unquote. Of course, I've been in the hospital last year, and they gave me about 1,000 tests. So I guess they wanted to sneak a little vial of my DNA out. They've already done it. So
absolutely. But it's kind of funny though when you think about it, what we're willing to give up. Now, one thing I just heard about, which was rather amazing, Alexis. You know, Alexis. Turn on the window, Alexis. Turn on and everything. Now there's a condo unit downtown, and it's just one bedroom, one living room, small dining area, the kitchen. Very expensive, but it's all electronic, and it'll do everything like cleaning your bathroom. It'll clean your floors. But it takes you 3 days to learn how to live in your home. Now, what? You know, to learn how to set this all up.
Yeah, of course, you've heard the stories of the kid, you know, ordering all kinds of stuff and have it show up because they used Alexa. I mean, I would never turn that stuff on. I want nothing to do. I mean, the problem is we grew up in the 60s, in the 70s. You see these futuristic movies. Open the pod bay doors, hell. You know, the idea where you want to have the coolness of being able to dictate and have it type. There's all this cool stuff that can be done, but every technical advancement throughout history has always been first used nefariously by those in power or somebody trying to get power, and then the benign benefits will trickle down. And in the case of Alexa and Google's Siri and all this, is that their whole goal is collecting information. And the benign is for targeted advertising, which helps everybody. Instead of just having mindless advertisement, you got something that you might be interested in. And the person who's buying advertisement gets to have a targeted dollar. You know, it's a win for everybody. Plus, you don't have to pay to join websites. But then we throw the whole level of surveillance on. So now you have political opinions and comments are being deleted and shadow banned from Facebook and Twitter because they're not fitting into the globalist situation. So there you go. It's like everything that happens.
Yeah, well, before we leave Alexa's, I just heard of a situation that it happened at the church I attend. They had they ran a little funny skit at the first part of the service, and it said on this video that they were showing, Grandpa, the little girl wanted to have dance music, her favorite music, and let's just show me play my favorite song. Dad says, no, play my favorite song. Alexis, the list goes on through the whole family. And at the end, Grandpa plays his favorite song, which was what the kids' favorite song was in the first place, which was supposed to be a commentary. They screwed up so many people's Alexas who were watching this online. When they said, Alexis, play my favorite song, their home Alexis, everything was coming from the video at church, and these people were watching it online, because that's a lot of people do this with this particular church. They said they had more problems with their machine because they were taking the instructions from the video.
Yeah,
so,
well,
whoa, that's weird. Yeah.
Let me get to a few things here. I primed the audience to say that you're not really involved in a lot of this stuff. And this whole Lexus thing, we've been talking about this for a long time and all the terrible stuff that come with it. But let me ask you, as we're looking out into this whole scenario, I mean, again, I think your trade is best done with people. You know, maybe group setting, one-on-one or one-on-one. You know, so. But for fun, we've taken you out into the world and asked for stuff. I mean, the big questions out there, which I cannot get a reading on at all, is red wave, blue wave, or does Trump get impeached or not? I mean, is that something that you can even take a stab at?
Right. Mm-hmm. I can tell you right now, the answer, there's a major, major shift 2 weeks from today. Now, 2 weeks from today, and that's when we're going to know whether he really gets kicked out or whether he ends up winning, coming out like the victorious. As long as he stays in his strength, he's going to be very, very strong, and I think he has the ability to do it. But we will have the answer for that in 2 weeks. So if there's some major thing that comes up that'll make, whether it's the Chinese deal or the Canada deal or even Kavanaugh. I don't think it's Kavanaugh. I think it's more something that he pulls out within the next 2 weeks, and I really feel it's going to be positive.
All right. Well, I mean, I've made no bones about it here on the show that I support Trump, and now everyone's got problems, but the problems coming from the left are so ridiculous that the left aren't even the left anymore. I mean, people are leaving the left to get back to being a liberal instead of being basically a neo-Bolshevik and so on. So there is a lot of stuff coming out about the records that have been found, proofs that there have been plans and lies and everything done with the courts. So, you know, when you say it to me, my hope anyway is that something will come up that will be a definitive, evidence and so forth.
What I'm feeling about that is, I feel it's going to be answered in 2 weeks. That's where a lot of times this gets a little bit awkward because all the information is not totally available, but I do feel that 2 weeks will be the 30th, and that's right before the election. So I think that there's a lot of good energy that comes from that. This whole thing's going to be like, you got to be kidding me, and we're so
October surprise, huh?
Yeah, it'll be 2 weeks. We don't have all the information available at this particular time.
Now, I want to say, from knowing you for years, you have been noted to do just this. is to say that something's going to come up 2 weeks from now or a month from now or whatever. And I've heard when you give readings to individuals who've called in and you've said that, and I've talked back to them, they mentioned that on that date even, they were thinking like, well, what's going to happen? Here's the date. But like another 2 weeks later, they looked back and saw on that date what happened. They didn't even recognize it at that time.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah. So that happens quite often, quite often, and it's just. But I do feel that I knew this North Carolina energy shift was going to be troublesome, and I've spent a lot of time in Florida. I love it down there, but what we've done to nature down there is totally ridiculous. Florida should be a bunch of 2-story hotels, maybe 3-story hotels on the barrier island, not 40-story condominiums. And we're doing the same thing in North Carolina. You know, a few years ago, Myrtle Beach was a couple golf courses, and the powers to be wanted the multi-million-dollar homes right on the beach, and they may not be there when this is over. So it's sometimes Mother Nature puts us in our place.
Yeah, we do got a few storms. I'm trying to look. I'm looking online trying to get a nice picture, but there's a few of them heading across at the you know, there's
a couple more coming.
And
It's September. That's what happens in September. And like I say, it's like, and then you get these clowns who are standing out in the middle of the ocean with up to their waist with a microphone and saying, "Oh, the rain here is terrible." You know, it's like, what are you doing? Did you not hear about somebody with a kite years ago?
I mean, did you hear about that particular video that somebody took pictures from a far away, and that they purposely waded out into the deep part to do that, where everybody else was standing on ground filming it? They waded out in the deep part just for the effects.
Yeah, it's like, what? Everybody else is just walking around, and the rest of the people are sitting in a boat going down the sidewalk. It kind of gets you crazy a little bit once in a while. But our purpose here is to believe in ourselves, have enough faith in ourselves that the reasons to reach a state of contentment is going to be our gift. And once we can do this, all the little bullshit stuff that goes on makes no difference. We can overlook all this stuff very, very nicely. It's just, it does. And once we can find contentment, we can go on a show like this. Maybe 10 people will be listening. Maybe 10,000 people might be listening. And if we can get a mass movement of just believing in yourself and getting away from, I wonder if he looks good in with a white tuxedo on dancing. Oh, I like the way he looks. I got to vote for him. No, if you have a vested interest in it, but it's a television show. And again, every time they've had a series, there's always been, in the 9 weeks, there's been somebody has had a tragedy. And so then we get into that, I feel so sorry for them. That's a shame. That's a shame. Well, just believe in yourself. Another question.
Oh, yeah. Okay. How about wars? How are we doing on the war front? We got, they're now coming up with some more malarkey about Assad gassing his own people. And we're talking about a guy who's pretty smart. He's actually a dentist, if I recall. He took over because his brother died or something like that. I mean, he's supposed to now, for the third time, gas his own people, which is against all the rules and so on. And there's a lot of evidence showing that this is all being made up, the excuse to attack. And then Russia's saying, yeah, if you do that, we're not going to let this happen. And, having a war with Russia is not big on my Christmas list this year. So what do you think about that?
Yeah. No, I don't think we have anything to worry about that type thing in the next 6 months because the Nikki, whatever her name is in the UN, she is a really powerful person. She's been one of the most powerful UN ambassadors we've ever had. And you don't hear a lot about her, but she is, she's got control of stuff.
I know, but she's kind of pushing for this. I mean, she's kind of hawkish from what I've heard.
Well, she is hawkish, but she's calling their bluff. That's what she's doing.
Here, my point is, there's a lot of evidence that, again, if I don't know if you have One American News Network on your cable. If you do,
yeah, I do.
They did a fabulous multi-part expose on the fact that the white helmets, or is the white helmets, white helmets, those guys are really. Let's just get simple. They're really the bad guys. The rebels are bad guys. They're actually working against Assad for the neocons. They call it John McCain's war. This is over there where he's been seen meeting with these people. That the goal here is whether it be a gas line or to stop this and then the other thing. There's this political reason for all of this, and a lot of the so-called good guys in Syria are actually causing all of this problem and blaming Assad and his forces. And Russia sees through all of this, and Russia is standing with Assad. And so you have basically now you have Russia and the U.S. on either side here. And in the past, when the gassing has happened, Trump has called, I think the way Trump did it, I mean, they wanted to put boots on the ground, 100,000 troops. What Trump did was to bomb like an abandoned facility, gave the Russians warning to get out in time, made this big, which kept the neocons at bay. They're like going like, well, we took care of that. We showed them. But the neocons and the extreme left are the two enemies we have in our own country, where you have people like McCain, which, I know he just died and everything like that, but, he was an enemy to the best of this country. And the liberals who gave him a 5-day love fest were calling him everything from a racist to an out when he was running against Obama. But when he was standing up against Trump, he became their poster boy. So I'm concerned. It's got, you have Trump. Trump went in there, in my opinion, to become CEO of America, and start firing people, bringing good people in, changing this plan, doing good business, which he's doing to agree. But what he didn't understand was, or realize the depth and hatred and power, is this whole deep state waiting for him, working against him. They're lying, they're cheating, they're stealing, they're spying. And he walked in there, and now he's got to fight them. He's got to fight the extreme left, Clinton and all those people. He's got to fight the neocons, which includes like a Lindsey Graham and a John McCain. And and at the same time, he's got to have somebody support him. So yeah, he'll support the military, and the military will be behind him. But now there's a threat in Syria, which he's sidestepped to a degree to this point. And so that's that. I know that's very long-winded, but I'm trying to give you the perspective. This is why I'm worried about this.
I think her name's Nikki Haley, the UN. She's got some power behind her, and I think she's going to have a lot of this control with that. And I just let her be, and you'll be surprised how that. All
right. That hearing you say that worries me. Because my looking at Nikki Haley is not a positive thing. So anyway, let's move off.
Just trust her. Give her. You don't hear much about. Once in a while, she pops up, but she's got a lot of chutzpah, and I really think that's what I'm feeling about this current situation. There's going to be a lot more power from her that'll straighten up, because it's not going to be her herself, but the powers at the UN will support her in this situation.
Okay, what about with these storms coming in and all? How does this relate to this upcoming winter? Is it going to be a mild winter because of all these heavy storms, or whatnot? I don't know if you can read that.
We're going to be in the Midwest. Actually, it's going to be like a love fest. As far as we're going to have some I'd say 3 issues. that may last a day or two, but nothing. As long as people have, how can I put this? There's something that I feel will run low this winter. I really do.
Good. You know what? I don't want you to say anything else because I want it to be not bad, so bad that I'll start crying on the air if you tell me it's going to be bad. So ever since a couple of years ago, I hate winter with a passion. With the cold, it's not even the snow as much as the cold. Just freaks me out. I don't know if I brought back a past life when I was frozen to death or something, but I had the 20 below for like a week at a time. It goes up to like 0, goes back to 20 below, and I'm driving, and that and it just it just.
Now, are you still doing the northern route?
Well, it's I mean, it's all over. I mean, it's lately it's been going. I've been going west. Let's say into Iowa, west, south. West, a little bit, but that could change. I mean, I'm one of these guys that, jump and I say how high, type thing. So.
Very good, James. Very good indeed. I feel we're going to, we will make some. Around the 21st of October, we're going to sit here going, oh, my God, it's already too cold. It's already too cold. But I feel through the middle of November where it's going to be like, okay, this ain't so bad. And
January, February are the two bad ones, though. That's why I'm...
Yeah, January and February are, that's where I think we have at that time period, like maybe 2 or 3 days where it's kind of nasty, but I'm not. This isn't going. This weather shift. We always talk about the warming of the planet and stuff like that, which I'm not arguing to a certain point. But the last time South Carolina was hit by a major storm was like in 1956 or something, and so it does happen again. And Right now, I think the farmers are sitting here going, holy crap, what do we do with all this corn? Especially if China doesn't want to buy it. But we're going to have a ton of crops that early spring with the way the rains were, I never thought we'd have crops like we got now. I was just down around Kankakee, and the corn is like 12 feet high.
Yeah, I know, isn't it? I went out for a motorcycle ride on Sunday, and I couldn't believe. I was like, "Wait a minute! I can't even see anything now. I feel like I'm driving in with a wall next to me."
But that's why I felt the last time I came back up from Kankakee, right on Halsted, both sides, 12-foot corn. I'm going like, what is it? Am I driving in a tunnel here or what? Yeah, it's not. It's really. I really feel it's not. We are going to have some, but I don't think it's going to be major.
A couple of things. It's getting toward the time, and we throw a couple of fast ones out there. Some big, some little things, no big deal. Like, how about media? We're going to meet aliens from another world this year.
We already have.
All right. Well, let me say in a more public sense, because.
Yeah.
And, I want to wake up. Well, I don't want this, but I mean, waking up and looking up in the sky and seeing this giant ship type of a thing, or Navaratu or whatever it is, Klaatu and all that stuff.
What they want is our wisdom, but they don't want us, and they want our wisdom and they want our support. They don't want us to fear. So I think there's going to be a few more. Again, this is media control. There was going to be a few more movies like Passengers. Did you see that movie?
No.
If you get a chance, check it out. Very, very well done movie. I can't think of the two. There's only 3 people in the whole movie, and it's about the spaceships that goes 125 years to get to another planet. And they put everybody into a sleep state situation so they can make the trip, and they move their bodies and stuff like that. Very, very well done. But the story behind it, it's on
What's the name of it again?
a lot of the Passengers. It's about this guy who agrees to go to this planet, and his cubicle broke down and opened up too early. And then there was another one that broke down and opened up too early. And it ended up being very much like Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And but it has a very sci-fi element to it. But what I found so really interesting about it was the fact that some of the things that they do in this movie that seem so totally unbelievable, when they made it, I think it won the award maybe 4 years ago, and then you figuring it took several years to make the movie. So I'm saying 8 years ago when they started it, seems so totally foreign, is totally here. So some of the stuff that was in the movie is just like, oh, that makes sense. That would work. And that if you saw it 4 years ago, you'd say, what? How is that working? You know. And so it's a good movie if you get a chance to catch it sometime.
Yeah, here, I don't know if you can see this. I don't know if you can see this here. I wonder if I'll get in trouble for this. Can you hear that?
No.
All right, 1 second here.
I'll listen more carefully.
Hello. Is he asking me on a date?
She didn't seem that
All I'm
impressed.
getting is like a small motor.
Wow.
You clean up pretty good yourself.
You two look fine this evening.
We're on a date.
Very nice.
Took you long enough to ask. So, why did you give up your life on Earth? We boarded the Avalon with a destination. 120 years hibernation means we'll wake up in a new century on a new planet. But a year ago, everything changed.
Hello? Anybody here?
Hello? Do you know what's going on?
Well, only one person.
I think
Only two people are alive.
We woke up too soon. 9 years too soon.
This can't be happening. We have to go back to sleep.
We can't.
Aurora, we love you.
They got up 9 years too early, huh?
Something's wrong. Something big.
What do we do now?
Do you trust me?
I don't like that. All right, I showed a bunch of it. I don't want to get too much because I'll end up getting.
Right. Yeah, it was. But I think we're going to be. And again, when you realize the acceptance of a lot of these things, that's when I think I know they're already here, and but we have opportunities to. They just want to learn from our wisdom. And they don't want to scare us. They really don't want to frighten us, because if we're frightened of them, they won't come back.
I want to tell you,
so I
did have a dream. I'm going to use the word dream because I don't know what else to call it. Where I was sitting at a table. This is extremely realistic. I can say almost more real than realistic, more real than real. Sitting at a table, I got people behind me. I know that. There's people behind this other person, and they're wearing robes. I would be robes like they had in ancient Greece, right? And they seem to be a little taller than me. So, I would turn around and say like they're my spirit guides or something, angels, I don't know, whatever. Well, anyway, the person in front of me, and I could see this right now, is plain as day. It was so clear. The person in front of me had a haircut. It was kind of like a stereotypical Japanese haircut. A woman's haircut that goes down past the ears, down the shoulder a little bit. Only it was a little bit kinky. A little bit kinky, but not much. Just a little bit, right? It wasn't perfectly black, smooth like that. Her face had big eyes. and they were slightly slanted, and they only were black. There wasn't a color, but they were definitely bigger. Okay, and the face, the nose was very petite. I mean, really small, smaller than the smallest nose, and it angled down on a V, so that her chin was very small, and the mouth was small. So like the face went from like the cheeks down triangularly, kind of quick. He had some type of I don't know if it's a uniform or if it was a traditional garb, like say, because I'm saying she's kind of Asian, only the eyes are a lot bigger. Okay, and so he had some kind of it was red and it had gold trim. So I mean, it could have been just official clothes, like a suit coat, let's say,
or type thing,
or it could have been a uniform. And I'm looking at her and I realize this is not a human. And she's looking at me, and I get a little impression like she's a little bit nervous because this is the first time that we've actually met one another. So I'm assuming in some kind of a semi-conscious state, whatever. And so I look at her, and I'm realizing that this is not a human. I wake up at my bed, and I leap out into the middle of the room, and I'm standing there going, "What the hell was that?" So that's one of my experiences.
Very, very simple. Again, I like to have at least three cognizant things in reference to the dream. You were at a restaurant. There were people behind you. In this situation, there were more than you realized. There were
I would clarify and say it was like at a table. It wasn't a restaurant, but it was like at a meeting.
Okay.
Table.
Now,
I can see someone will say restaurant, but yeah. But
yeah.
Oh, I can see. I mean, I can see where someone might say restaurant, but there was no food. Yeah, but go ahead.
No. Okay. You know that place in China where they found all those thousands of tomb soldiers?
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, right. That's what was behind you, and what was in front of you was this young, attractive, appropriately dressed female, but she had deep, solid eyes. Now, eyes are the key to the soul. Well, you said the eyes were black, so her soul was not going to be exposed. And what happened was, all of a sudden, your body came back. You were already in a situation where they wanted to find out some wisdom for you, but you came back to awaken yourself and said, "What the hell was that?" Well, they were playing with you a little, testing you a little bit to see what you might be able to share with them. Now, you'd say, "Well, what the heck do they want with me? I mean, I drive a truck and I run this radio show and stuff like that." But we have to understand, we are a culmination of our old souls. So this takes us back to centuries, and they can do, like we just talked about, the DNA, by just attaching you to a different type machine than we can even imagine, and it'll bring up all your past lives and what you've accomplished. And so, but you pulled yourself back. I mean, it was just
I don't want to do it. No, don't want to do that. I don't want to get involved. I want to do a spiritual thing. I want to grow into a more spiritual being. I want to know God. I want to feel and know God intimately as much as I can. I want to. I don't want aliens. I don't want to have angels, demons, and none of that stuff. Give me a good old.
Well, that's why you were able to come back. You jumped out of bed.
Yeah. Well.
So what the hell was that? So we can go as long as any time we want to with them if you feel confident.
To me, what's the purpose? I mean, there's no purpose that I can see other than like, hey, that's cool, or oh wow, ooh ah. I mean, I'm more focused.
No, the purpose of that was they can connect to our dream states.
Well, I said no, and it hasn't.
Just,
it hasn't anymore. I mean, I said no,
yeah.
And I reiterated it, and know what the face is.
People don't understand when you're dealing with these energies. I'm not always going to. I'm always accepting psychic energy, but I'm not always on. So when I'm taking a shower, I don't want any energies bother me. When I'm cleaning my gutters, I don't want anybody to bother me, and I got to clean my gutters. When I'm doing mundane things, I need to have the opportunity to do them. But when I'm opening myself up to the ethers, and you probably had done a really strong meditation prior to this dream, and didn't even realize that happened, and that opened up that connection. But we always have the right to say no.
Yeah, I did have I had a couple other ones, but I won't go into it now because we're running out of time. But this was we'll call it the nicest of them. Is that it wasn't that I got like, oh no, this is terrible. It just was. I was no doubt in my mind that who I was seeing in the dream, and I've had monsters in my dreams or stuff, but this was like very real, and this was not a human. There's no question about it. But anyway, let's wind this up. But usually you leave us with some pearls here.
Okay, I'm all set for that. We're going to have for this month. It is this Chinese thing is going to come up as quite a surprise. So exactly how that sets up or where it sets up and stuff. This comes up the taxes, the tariffs on these things. Now, I don't deal with moneties like this normally, but again, it's about balancing out our trade with these other countries. So I think that's going to come out to a positive vein, even though it's kind of dragged out here. I do feel we have there's going to be some unrest in the country over different things. I don't know exactly whether it's the trial or whether it's whatever it is, but there's some more uprising with trying to get people's mind under control.
The trial? And you said
yeah.
What trial?
Yeah, there's a trial that comes up that's going to be a little bit unsettling.
All right, I like how you kind of just went right past that real quick.
Yeah, I don't want to get in that one too much, but there's just so much agitation out there. It's ridiculous. And I would say we have wait a minute, let me think. We still have a fluctuation of the market, and I don't do monetary like I say, but the market is part of how our life is adjusting and stuff. So we're going to have up and flow. We're going to have up and flow. A couple of years ago when the market would go up 100 points, it was first page news. Now it's like, oh, it went up 100 points. It went down up 300 points. But this is about how things are going. But I'm really surprisingly, we got that 2 weeks now before that election comes up in November. And no, that's October. Yeah, that's right. I'm getting ahead of myself.
November, yeah.
In 2 weeks, we got some good news about how political standings are, and we're right with that. No, we're going to come down. I think there's one other coastal problem with the hurricanes, but it's nothing like what they're dealing with down there right now. So they're going to be much more settled up. Okay, sir. I shall talk to you next month.
All righty.
Okay.
Take care. All right. That was. Turn this off here. How am I going to do this? It was Jim Shultz. Like I said, he's very good at doing. How do I turn this off now? Got to just, of course, there we go. Sign out. He's not big on the internet stuff. but he's good person to person. So I usually pull him out of his comfort zone when it comes to doing readings about what's going on out there, because it's not really his focus. It's not that I would say he's not capable. I guess it would be if you had like a brain surgeon could do a appendectomy or whatever. I mean, maybe that's a poor analog, but it's not a comfort zone. And also, because he's not familiar with some of the internet stuff, the terminology might be not as understand. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. First part of this, for those turning in late, I went into my technical aspects of prescience, how it all works out. I think it's very important to know that. I mean, in my opinion, that's why I did it. I'm going to put this not in my Bible study side, because this is not me trying to see what the Bible or Jesus said. It's me explaining what I think. I'm coming up with my theory on how things work, and there's some Bible stuff in it, but so I'm not going to put it. I'm going to put it in the Resonating with Reality playlist for those who may try to look for it later. And I didn't talk about any news or nothing, so I'm not going to put it in the Defeat the Fire Radio side. So that's why if you go to my webpage, defeatthefireradio.com, everything's done in terms of chronological order, so you don't have to go look. But if you look at YouTube, there's going to be several different lists that it would appear in. I think there's a list that has the latest show on it anyway, so I just wanted to mention that. Thanks for those who are hanging out in the chat room. And I didn't see Dr. Harmonica in the chat room at all today. I don't know if he can, because he's out in Poland, so that's probably, probably tomorrow already out there. But we opened up with Dr. Harmonica. The Power of the Blues, one of his original tunes, so that's at the beginning of this. And we'll see you next week. Take care. And as Kojak would say, like that there.